Welcome back, guys. Today is day 19 of One Zentangle A Day. It is wonderful to see all of your smiling faces today. Today we're going to be focusing in on some geometric patterns, or rectilinear, just meaning patterns that use straight lines. So for this first rain pattern, we start with some curvy lines. These act as like little stems. Then on top of that, we add some zigzags. Now, to make zigzags, it's very important that we stop at every corner. If you try to do it too fast, it's going to be wavy and wiggly. So I'm going to start at the end of one of my stems. I'm going to make a zig, stop, then make a zag and stop, crossing over that stem each step of the way. Again, on the next one, zig, then zag, then zig, then zag, then zig, then zag. And once you've made your zigzags on each stem, we're going to go back and darken those in. And this is going to give us some real high contrast between these dark triangle-y shapes and the white background around it. And when you're done darkening in those zigzags, we're also going to add an aura. The aura is going to go around the stem and the zigzags. And at a place like this, it's going to kind of overlap underneath and behind one another. So there I made this second one in front of the first one. And then this third one is also going to be underneath or behind. So we stop, we bump and jump. And there you go, that's all there is to it. Maybe we want a little bit of shading, maybe not. One way to do some interesting shading is just to shade from the bottom up, where it's darkest right at the very bottom, and gets lighter as it moves up. And right away, if you compare rain to some of the patterns we've made over the last couple of days, this one, because it's made out of straight, sharp edges, it looks very different from any of these other patterns. This will be really interesting to use with other geometric patterns, and it will also be really interesting to use in conjunction with some of the organic patterns. That'll make some good juxtaposition. Our next pattern is Cubine. This, again, starts with our diagonal grid. We've used that for a lot of different patterns. And then the next thing we're going to do is put a horizontal line across every one of these diamonds. To do that, I'm going to turn my paper vertical because it's easier for me to pull this line down. And then the next step is to pick either the left or the right. It looks like on this second step here they've used the left side, but here they've used the right side to darken in a diamondy shape. Keep it consistent where you're doing that on the same side for every diamond. And if you've done that right, it kind of looks like, if I turn it this way, like these dark diamonds are the bottom of a box, and then the rest of these edges are the walls of the boxes. It's like a whole bunch of boxes lined up in rows. Now there is a little bit that shading can do to emphasize that, like if I darken one side just a little bit, and then if I consistently darken that same side across all of the cubics. And there, that is the Cubine pattern, looking all cubey. Now, when I first looked at this Beeline pattern, I thought, wait a minute, haven't we done one called Beeline before? But no, a couple days ago it was Beelight, not Beeline. That was one where we did a little circle with some little, lights shining around it. Anyway, for Beeline, it looks like we are going to start with some horizontal rows, and then after our horizontal rows, we're going to do some zigzags that go down the horizontal, and it's going to zig to a line and then zag to the next line, zig to a line, zag to the next line. So all of our zigzag points are on one of our horizontal lines. So we're not just randomly zigzagging, we're doing it on those lines. And then we're turning those zigzags into diamonds. So right here where this one meets at the top here, I'm going to come down the other way and make that into a diamond. And then another zigzag to make it a diamond. And then I'm going to leave a little space, and I'm going to do the same diamondy pattern, but offset by 1. So here the diamond is from the top to the next to the third line. So now I'm going to come down a line, start here, and make one of my diamonds from the second, third, and fourth lines. Does that make sense? And then this one's going to have the bottom edge of a diamond. And then it's going to be a zig and a zag and a zig and a zag. A zig and a zag and a zig and a zag. And so you can see that the space between the diamonds is a sort of rhombus-y shape. Kind of like a diamond pointing that direction. And then just like the pattern we did before, we're going to have dark black edges, we're going to have shaded gray edges, and we're going to have white edges. So I'll start by darkening in these diamonds that I made. And that'll darken right over the line that crosses through the diamonds. Like, see here, this diamond is really made up of 2 triangles. That's going to get darkened over. So instead of looking like 2 triangles, it's just going to look like 1 black diamond. And that beeline is already starting to look like rows and rows of cubes all stacked on top of each other. But next, what I'm going to do is take 3 together with, considering like this black shape is the left side, and then there's a top and a bottom connected to it, and the bottom is going to get shaded. So that way those 3 edges together, those 3 diamonds or rhombus-y shapes together, create 1 cube with a dark side, a medium side, and a light side. And we'll do that for every single one of these cubey shapes. And one thing you'll find is that you end up going in sort of a diagonal pattern with your shading. So you can see that I shaded a diamond, and then a diamond, and then a diamond, and then this one, and that makes a diagonal. And that's useful for edges like this right here, which is off the edge of my pattern, but I know from this diagonal that this box right here should be shaded. And there, now that that's finished, it definitely looks like a whole bunch of cubes all stacked up in nice, neat rows. Alrighty, now there's one other thing talked about on this page, and that is dewdrops, which is where you have a sort of circle drawn on top of a pattern that changes the underlying shape of the pattern and makes it look like there's a dewdrop on top of the pattern. So that's a fun little thing you can play around with. In the meantime, I am going to use on this tile nothing but geometric rectilinear lines and shapes and patterns. And that means even for my border and my string, I'm only using straight lines. And there you have a bunch of geometric patterns, rectilinear patterns, whichever you want to call it. I love the way that this one rain pattern, because it starts with those curved lines, it really juxtaposes itself even against all these other rectilinear patterns. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this Zentangle or this series on One Zentangle a Day, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video with your friends, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 20.